welcome back to another episode of UnMaddening.
Hello
I'm
again, everyone.
KJ. Got
And I'm Swales.
Swally over here. Today's word is unity, which, according to the dictionary, means the state of being united or joined as a whole. Further definitions include things such as the state of forming a complete and harmonious whole, or a thing forming a complex whole, which I think is probably the better definition of unity, because in referring to a country, we are a complex whole, but we can still be united. Having a little squiz at the Open Dictionary definitions of unity, I found out that Unity is actually a free video game and animation engine. It's popular with beginners and indie developers. There were numerous definitions explaining Unity as this application, which I didn't know.
A bit like our politicians giving different definitions of unity.
Yeah. And then this one says Unity. Unity is what the universe actually is. There may appear to be separate parts, but they are as whirlpools in a stream. It's a bit pretty and poetic in that one there, but I get the point. Yep. And unity, something that in reality doesn't usually last. People unify only for a while, then they go back to dividing. It's human nature. It happens all over the world to this day. Yes, further it says, unity is like peace. As great as it seems when you have it, people will go back to being people at some point. There is only the glue of the illusion that people are unified to keep holding them together in unity, and the people who make the glue
Urban Dictionary ones,
get rich making their glue. Yes.
They actually are making a little bit of sense there, but still, Urban Dictionary is very modern and cynical.
Yeah, sometimes they do have some gems in there. Okay, so unity in Australia. We're talking about unity today, and earlier this week, our new Prime Minister, he made some remarks about us Aussies.
I've already started my rant on that one, haven't I?
Yeah. So the quote is, the Australian people voted for unity rather than division. And he went on to say, we'll be a disciplined, orderly government in our second term, just like we have been in our first. So it's actually pretty interesting that he was re-elected for many reasons. But according to stats, he's the first Australian Prime Minister to lead a party to consecutive election victories since John Howard in 2004. So it's been, 20-odd years.
The second one since John Howard?
He's the first since Johnny Howard,
So John Howard
to lead a party to consecutive election victories. So it's been quite some time.
I find it funny how the prime ministers that we had before, we called prime minister, like as far back as I can remember, Bob Hawke, and then Tony Abbott and John Howard. And then when we got to Kevin 07, I think it all changed from there. We were just calling them by their last names, like an Aussie slang version.
Yeah, maybe like a little bit less respectful, or is it that they have coined those terms themselves via the media to be more likeable or something?
Maybe be more
I don't know, but yeah, that's an interesting point. Although even with Mr. John Howard, I always called him Johnny Howard.
Yeah, Johnny Eyebrows.
Yeah, and it is his name, not Johnny Eyebrows. But yeah, okay. Further on in that article that I was reading there, it says Labor also accused Dutton of igniting culture wars. While Albanese stands before the Australian flag and two Indigenous flags at media announcement, Dutton had said that as Prime Minister he would only stand in front of the national flag. And Dutton had also used the term united under one flag. Going back to that whole point of being united as a collective rather than like separate groups united with each other and then one extra branch on top. Interestingly, when Albanese was claiming victory of the election and we were watching it on the old YouTuber, we did notice that behind him there wasn't an Aussie flag. I did have to look into it further, and there were flags there, but they just happened to be off to the side, like they were to his left or to the right of the screen when you had wider angled shots.
Not front and foremost in the shot.
No. But there were like three of them off to the side. So we had the Australian national flag, the Indigenous flag, and the Torres Strait Islander flag, and they were there and they were prominent for those that were in the room. But in the shot, I couldn't see it, and I got me thinking. Like I feel like in other speeches of prime ministers accepting and whatever else that they would have that quite prominently placed. So I Googleized, as one does, and I looked at ScoMo, Scott Morrison.
Yeah, there we go, ScoMo, yeah.
He had a flag as an entire backdrop, so like the curtain behind him was just a monstrous Aussie flag. Even Turncoat, Malcolm Turnbull, he had a couple of Aussie flags behind him.
Turncoat.
Tony Abbott had numerous Aussie flags. I think maybe there were 4 in that picture. Julia Gillard also had Aussie flags. Captain K. Rudd, he had like a big Southern Cross backdrop thing behind him. Johnny Howard had the Aussie flag. Paul Keating had a blue backdrop. So his was similar to Albo's in that it was like that same deep blue, but not actually in what I could see. I mean, I wasn't there. This is just you Googleizing. I'm happy to be proven wrong. Bob Hawke, he famously wore that suit jacket with the Australian flags all over it. Where it's like the picture of the map of our country with the flag imprinted on it, and then like Australia written all over that as well. And then I even had a look for some archival photos of Malcolm Fraser, and he was regularly seen in those pics with an Australian flag. And those flags were not as fancy as today's flags. You can actually in some of the pictures see like the crease marks in the flag where it's been, unfolded and placed behind him. It's like blue tacked to the wall. Or
I think they had blue tack back then.
I reckon they would have.
Oh, you have to look that one up as some.
We've been using horses to
vintage
make glue for a
culture
long
next
time. Yeah, we'll look into it. Anyway, the flag was there for Albo, but it just, I guess I was just surprised that I didn't see it prominently. It was a bit strange. But what does that signify? Is it just a virtue signalling thing to even have the flag there at all? Or was it his other methodology of virtue signalling by having the 3 flags instead of just the one, but kind of being cautious about having done that, and so they're kind of off to the side? I don't know. I guess...
I was going to go back on your unity there.
Well,
it was still grating
yeah.
on me. And speaking of politicians and that, so they're going back at... The word unity is used by both the political parties, the major parties.
Yeah.
Or even any of them, but the choice of the wording and the way they use it. So they might use in some left promises, or that they might use unity as pushing an ideology of the unity rather than what it really means to be united and together and in one sort of thing. I mean, to be united in something, you can be united in a goal or united on the principles and morals. It doesn't mean you have to follow the rest of the sheep into the paddock. You can have your own ideals and that, or you can be united of, this is where we want this country to go. We want to go back to
traditional
values and holding fast to the constitution that set this country up and the Christian values that set this country up. But you can be united because the political system was what the political system is. Whether it voted the way that you wanted it or didn't want it to, you subscribed to the fact that this is the way the political system works, and the best man wins, and it went that way. So we've got to be united in that. That's what we voted for. Even if you didn't vote for it, the country voted for that. Yeah, and you don't have to subscribe to it, but this is the time now to be united and actually hold them, whether you voted left or right or whatever you voted. But you voted for these things, and they said some policies and promises and things that they were going to do, whether you agree or disagree with them. Now it's the time to hold them accountable. And if they're bad laws or not bad laws, then it's time to hold them accountable for, human rights, constitutional rights, and hold them accountable for it. Ask questions, talk to people.
Be involved, actually get active.
You can't be just divisive and just go one separate way and do nothing about it. But whinge and complain.
Yeah, well, you don't just stick your head in the sand for 3 years and hope that somebody makes a difference.
Or just make a noise, whinging, but not doing anything proactive or active to change
proactive. That's an important one, isn't it?
But the way they use the words are 2 different polar opposites. Yeah.
There does seem to be a lot of confusion and frustration when you look at comment sections and things on your interwebby posts about the election results themselves. So they're not really pointing to a picture of unity being felt among the voting public.
Yeah.
Um,
Be united in a personal agenda. What I say,
Yeah.
you must unite and follow what I say. That's not
really how it
not
works.
real unity.
We'll see. It's a waiting game.
Mm.
It does seem off the bat that if in fact Aussies were voting for unity, that they might not be getting what they what they bargained for there. But we'll see.
Rant over.
Yes, exactly. So while I was Googlising all the flag backdrop debacle, I found an article on Unity Day, which was written on October of last year, 2024. And it was celebrating 12 months since Australia voted no to the voice to Parliament, which again is one of those topics of unity. Is it divisive rather than actually unifying? So the quote from Mr. Wild, who is Daniel Wild, he's the Deputy Exec Director of the Institute of Public Affairs, and he'd said, "We should all rejoice that there is much more that unites Australians than divides us. The Australian way of life is based on fairness, equality, freedom and tolerance. The result of the Voice to Parliament referendum renewed our deep commitment to these principles. Australians understood it was an elitist challenge to these fundamental ideals, and we should celebrate unity." And then there's further on, it's just got a little note there about how it was the most consequential vote since Federation. An overwhelming majority of Australians voted for equality and rejected elite identity politics. At a time when social cohesion is under unprecedented strain, Australians chose unity over division. Now, if I scroll back up here and have a look, what was it that Albo had said? The Australian people voted for unity rather than division. Now, did he just take that quote from Mr. Wild and repeat it for his own good there?
Almost word for word.
Yeah, well, the Mr. Wild quote from the from I think it was the October. Did I say October 24? Says Australians chose unity over division, and up here this one says Australian people voted for unity rather than division. So I mean, I suppose that's and I'll leave that there.
Unity, it's a bit of a buzzword nowadays, isn't it?
And then I also looked at this website called Australian Unity. It's like, oh, what's that? Hadn't heard of it. It had an article that was reporting more people under 35 are feeling lonelier than ever. Some of the dot points here were, while we've typically viewed older people as being particularly vulnerable to loneliness, Australians aged under 35 are experiencing high levels of loneliness and mental distress. Australian Unity Wellbeing Index research shows that people who are lonely have low levels of well-being. The cost of living crisis, housing affordability, and the pandemic have all contributed to a sense of isolation among young people. It's like, oh, well, that's pretty sad. It's like, oh, the Australian Unity well-being people, or maybe they'll have something positive for me.
They're just going to be sad news.
Well, I mean, if it is in fact true, according to their research, it is really sad, and we desperately need to be united as a country. And there really does seem to be a fundamental lack of genuine personal connections being made between people. And yeah, I guess that's what their evidence from their research was showing. Quite dismal.
There's another thing on that unity thing is people, if we all unite and actually start talking about politics and start getting invested in and understanding it and interested in it, rather than just sitting complaining, oh, we didn't get what we want, or I don't like these policies that do that. I mean, there's a lot of people that are just inherited voters, where they've just, well, this is what we voted as kids, and this is what my household is, this is what my parents voted, this is the policies that they push. But
it's like inheriting a religion, isn't it?
Yeah,
what
that's
was
right.
my mum again? Well, what are you? What's your choice? What do you think? What do you feel? What's affecting your life now and your own family?
This is transgenerational politics, basically.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you have your own ideas, you're united, and you're talking about it, and you have the gear and the goal of where you want your country to go, because us as a voting nation, it is our country, and we have the right to choose and how it goes, and we vote those people in to do that. I think you might come up with some other alternatives. You might.
But you got to be active or
You gotta be
proactive, as you said.
and
That's the
proactive, yeah.
key thing. If this
If you
affects
want to
you
make a change, you have to get
positively or
involved.
negatively, even if you're happy with the result, good. Still be proactive about it. Like actually work towards how you want your country to be. Yeah. Anyway, enough unity slash lack of unity, doom and gloom. That's enough. Vintage culture appreciation.
Oh, this is good stuff.
Yeah. Because I love words as well as vintage culture.
Blue tack.
And the first two letters are not blue tack.
No.
The first two letters are the same as unity. So we're going to talk about the original Uno game, as in the card game.
That's a different kind of unity. That does create a lot of division.
It's
though, when
division. Anything to do with a board game is division in my house. I'm a terrible loser. Don't even. So Uno was developed in 1971. So, I guess it is vintage culture in of itself, but for us, it's not something that's been lost and forgotten because
it's
we
been a
still,
staple.
yeah, we still have Uno cards in numerous locations. I got some in the house here. There's some in the car. There's another set that they go in the caravan, kind of like travel ones, and
It's a staple. It's right next to the flower in the cupboard.
yeah, in a van. Yeah, absolutely. And you can still find decks for sale in the supermarkets, and there's all these different variants of it now as well, some of which we also have. There's like
Not fond of the variants.
the flip one, where if you played the flip card, you got to turn the entire deck over, and now your cards are all completely different than what they were when you were playing
Different
the first
meanings
hand.
and,
Yeah, you just
different
turn
colours.
them over.
They got like neon colours on the other
Yeah,
side.
they're kind of like these inverted colours. It's a bit weird. There's Uno Stack. There's No Mercy, which actually does have a mercy rule. If you end up with more than 25 cards, you bow out. So that's nice. But one of the cards can make it, instead of being a draw 4, there's like a draw 10 card in there, which is pretty horrendous. So you could get to 25 cards pretty quickly if you were unlucky enough to put down a draw 10 and then somebody else whacks a draw 10 on top of it. Well, that's it. Game over. Mercy indeed. Yes, I love them. And we used to play a lot when I was a kid too, and had a rule that I still play now that you hate,
Oh,
Swiley.
I don't like it.
The twins rule.
No.
If the
Doesn't work.
card is, if you've got it in your hand and it's identical, has to be the same number and colour, you can play them at the same time, so provided you say twins when you put them down. But you can also play one of your twins on somebody else's card if you're clever enough to spot it when it's not your turn.
I just
So
don't like it. It's cheating.
brilliant. It's
Don't
not
like it.
cheating. It's legitimate. It's been around for a long time. It just so happens that you suck at playing it. So you don't like
And
the twins rule.
there's always house rules. I mean, like
Of
when you're
course
playing
there
with
is.
you're playing with the kids and they don't like the challenge rule because they just want to put down the draw 4 if they come at the end and look, you've got too many cards. I'm just going to put down draw 4 even I've got that card.
You got to run through the rules at the start. Are we playing challenge or are we not
It's just a
playing
lot
challenge?
easier house rules. We're the kids. You don't play challenge rules. It just gets too complicated.
No challenge, but definitely twins. I love the twins.
I mean, I remember playing when we were kids and you'd have the draw 4 and you could just put a draw 4 like it was a draw 2 on top of another draw 4.
No, you cannot.
That was our
That's
house
your
rules.
your house rule.
that's
That's
same as your
rubbish.
twins rule.
Nah, twins makes much more sense. A
But
draw 4
it
is not
would
a draw
get
2.
nasty.
A
You said
twin is
pick-
identical.
You said pick up 10. This used to get nasty.
Well,
If
that's
you had
in the
4
no
draw
mercy
4s,
one.
it'd be like 16 cards
Yeah.
until someone like, nah.
Yeah, it's good.
And then if someone
it's a
goes-
good rule.
And then you play it all out and you go, challenge.
It's good unless it happens to me. I will have a tantrum. Don't
Well, it used to
give me
get quite
4 draw
nasty because you
4s.
go draw 4, draw 4, draw 4, draw 4, and then it'd be 16, and then you go, I challenge. That's 32 cards. No, you can't challenge.
You
no, you
shouldn't
can't
have.
challenge.
You shouldn't have played it if you had other options. I mean, yeah, challenge is fair, but you've got to commit at the beginning. We're going to use challenge, or we're not going to use challenge. But yes, Uno is awesome. Love it. On that note, that was fun. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time
Off
for
to play
another
another game of Uno.
crazy episode of UnMaddening. Until then, God bless and peace out.
This content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. We are not card sharks, political commentators, pastors or prime ministers. You are not more likely to suck less or try hard having listened to these shenanigans.